Alright. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to the board administrators and all of the minister caster the representative and would like to present to you all our prohibitors, our opinion about state caster right now. So we stand for and bring to you three major problems that we're going to present to you. So the first one is about the pandemic. The second one is about the overpopulation in Castor. And the third one is about the influx of illegal immigrants in Castor's land itself. So, starting off with the pandemic. So, as you know, Castor is facing this new form of virus called the IMPF31. That is the characteristics that this speed of this disease of IMPF31 is 2 times the fastest spreading speed of COVID-19, and also it is more easily spread not just by airborne or just by waterborne and not just by touching infected people. So the end product of this goal is we wanted to reduce the infection rate in Castor's citizens. So the major solutions that the government would like to bring in the hall today is that we're going to bring up one solution that is we're going to make the movement control orders, SOPs, and new norms. But there's an exception here. These SOPs and new norms are more advanced and more a slight difference from the COVID SOPs. So we're bringing three characteristics. So strictly, we are going to strictly authorize the usages of face masks, sanitization on full course, and the major physical distancing. So how are we going to do all of these things? So the first one, because this IMPF disease is very lethal and very dangerous, so the physical distancing that we usually do for 1 meter distance will be increased to 3 meter distancing. And the second one, sanitization in full course. So every store, restaurants, hotels, and other public places must have at least possess 5 boxes of hand sanitizer in their supplies, so that the government will make an inspection monthly to check on their supplies if they don't have these 5 boxes of hand sanitizers in their supplies. And the third one, if we wanted to strictly authorize the usages of face masks. So in the government one initiative to make these face masks mandatory usage for all citizens. And also, if one citizen decided to disobey the new norms and SOPs, they will be fined as a slight fine of 240 Castor bucks per person. And also, all stores around the world, like pharmacies and clinics, will not be taking charge for this mask, because the mask price of Castor will be completely free for all citizens to enjoy and for all citizens to use. So, what are the beneficial things that we wanted to bring here? So, the benefit of all of this is that we wanted to ensure our safety of citizens, and the second one is to make Castor a living heaven, so that it will be a safe place for the government, the citizens to live with conducive sites. So, moving on to the second one, that is overpopulation in Castor. So, ladies and gentlemen, how can these things happen? Overpopulation is where a state of country has limited amounts of resources. So, in this big subject, we want to divide these big subjects into two. That we want to control for the state of consumers, and the second one we want to control for the resources itself. So, starting off with consumers. The objective here is to reduce the amount of people that are using these resources. So, the solution that we want to bring is the control limit by introducing a new act called the Act of Family Controls 2029. So, the characteristics of these acts that the government just introduced is that the first one is we wanted to ensure 1 child per family. The second one, families must own legally prescribed contraceptive pills after sexual intercourse. So, ladies and gentlemen, you might ask, how can the government trace? How can the government identify if one couple just has sexual intercourse? So, cooperating with the health ministers, we will take the records of each newly wedded couples if they want to trace the records, if they just have sexual intercourse, so the government can know these couples must have contraceptive pills in their possession of household. So, for instance, if one couple just the limit that has been set up by the government is exceeded. For instance, I'm newly married couple with my wife, and I decided accidentally have a second child, or I just intentionally has a second child because the law clearly states one child per family. But okay, this will happen. Payment of regular household fees are increased according to the amount of children, ladies and gentlemen. So, what do I mean by the regular household fees are increased? So, casters newly regular household fees are like this. Families must pay 5,000 caster bucks per month if they want to start a requirement household fees for one family. But if the family decided to have another children, for instance, if you have two more children, the fees will increase by 5%. And if the third students, if the third child is being born, the increasing fee will increase by 10%. And if you decided to have three and above children, the increasing fee will rise above 15%. So beneficial things, and what are the purposes that the government want to introduce these things? So the first one is we want to control the usage of resources for the first one. That is the main objective of all of these things. So moving on to resources, to reduce the resources itself. How can the government contain these resources? The objective is to reduce the usages of resources as much as possible, ladies and gentlemen. Hence what? The solution that we're going to bring in state B of STAR is wanted to close down unnecessary sites such as water parks and cosmetic stores, for instance. But, ladies and gentlemen, what do I mean by natural resources? For instance, natural resources like water, living places, and also land settlements, for instance, ladies and gentlemen. So, if the resources such as water is having a crisis in Caster's land, so sites like water parks will be shut down permanently to ensure these excessive waters will be flowed right across, will be flowed to these water for them contain. And ladies and gentlemen, so instead, these excessive water that will use to float in the water parks are not flowed in the water parks, will be flowed in these settlements for them to use with ease, and not will be contained in the government itself. So, moving on to the last point of view. So, we want to reduce the influx of illegal immigrants in Castor. Ladies and gentlemen, this one subject has two main objectives. For the first one is to ensure citizens' safety, and the second one is to sustainably control the economy. So, the solution is to strictly authorize border controls. How can the government strictly authorize the border controls? By cooperating with the ministers of defense. We have made a decision to close all borders across Castor, including North Castor, South Castor, and also in Central Castor, so that in and out activity will not be allowed in the short period of time. What do I mean by in and out activity? But there's an exception here. The in and out activity is included by tourism activities, and tourism industries will be shut down internationally, but locally will be still be on for the locals to enjoy sightseeing and so on. The second one, but there has an exception for government officials and also import and export activities with a certain clause. The first clause that government officials will be introduced and to be used by them, make an in and out activity to see the big associations like World Health Organization, World Trade Organizations, and also the information clause that has been stated before. And the second clause for import and export activities, these workers and these industries will be introduced by a new introduced by a new license called the Special Activities License for Import and Export Activities that will be introduced to them as a license to be approval by the government that they can really work by a supervised state and a supervised activity. The second one, how can the government sustainably control the economy in these current states? So, as a result, the government had identified these two types of people that are going to be that has dragged down our economy to its feet. So, these two types of people are the first people that really these first immigrants that really work for Castor, and the second states of people who don't work for who don't work for the country, we're just visiting the country, doing nothing, and so on. So the government here make one solution to introduce the fundamental casters worker tax, or in short form called the SCWT. The SCWT tax is a purpose to filter these two types of people so that they are not going to track down our economy, wasting money for the country, and also not doing nothing. So we all had to filter these types of people that are very little to the economy and also to the social environment for the citizens. But, ladies and gentlemen, these taxes are only applied for immigrants only and not certified citizens, as they're going to filter these two types of immigrants. So the end product of these two objectives and two solutions that we're going to control all immigrants using them as wise as possible, because we're at the current state right now. Castor is in big trouble, ladies and gentlemen, and we were going to use all of these immigrants wisely and normally, that we can use it as a goal for our future to achieve a safe country, an inclusive country, and also a wise mad country that has economical changes, and also its citizens are more well prepared than other countries. So at the end of my speech, any Q&A sessions will be open by my Deputy Health Minister, Dato' Haris Aiman bin Haji Abdul Malik, in his Q&A sessions in a short moment. So at the end, in the conclusion, I bid farewell. Thank you.
So, for the regarding the question, what are the government initiatives for the issue of urbanization? First of all, I would like to touch that we doesn't see urbanization as a major problem right now, because urbanization is not a very little subject to be discussed during this pandemic. Because first of all, we can see that there is rural settlements that need to be urbanized. But when during this pandemic, we see that these rural settlements can be supported by the cities near them. So I hope that answered the question. Thank you. Okay, second question. Does Castor need foreign aid? First of all, as you all know, Castor is an isolated city as is an isolated country. So first of all, I would like to say that we have this so-called a very developed city that is Dargon. So I don't think we need foreign aid because Dargon itself can support the whole country. So I don't think the country Castor doesn't need foreign aid. Soalan. Okay. So next question. There is a statement, but Dargon is wishing to leave Castor. The thing is, it doesn't leave yet. So we need to use that opportunity to help for Dargon to use. We can use this Dargon city to help Castor during this pandemic because it wishing to leave the Castor, but it's still not happening yet. So